Tenim un dels grans greatest hits d'aquesta 57a edició, Terrifier 3, amb un equip que, com veieu, és bastant nombrós. Tenim el Damien Leone, el director, Phil Falcon, el doctor, les actrius LaVera i Samantha Scafidi, i l'actor no, Art the Clown, David Howard Thornton. Així que us sisplau un fort aplaudiment per tots ells. És una taula tan graciosa que jo ara mateix farem un canvi, vale? Jo faig les presentacions, ja sabeu, aixequeu la mà i us passarem el micro perquè pugueu tirar alguna pregunta, algun comentari, algun dubte a l'equip de Terrifier 3 i tots vostres. Gràcies.
I'm a great admirer of the kind of classical acting, like in silent movie that you channel through your character art. I'd like to ask you what kind of influences do you have when trying to create this character in terms of traditions, if you were training mime, I don't know, how do you technically find out the way this character comes alive?
Well, I have a long appreciation for physical comedy. I had a great education in that as well. Growing up, my parents and grandparents had me watching the great silent film era of comedy, Marx Brothers, Chaplin, Buster Keaton. My aunt also gifted me a box set of Mr. Bean videos when I was 13, and I would sit and watch those over and over and over and over and over. And I love that style of comedy. Of course, Jim Carrey, Peter Sellers from the Pink Panther movies, Doug Jones, a great physical actor, Andy Serkis. So I love that style, and I adapted that growing up. I was never trained in it. I just learned from watching and just doing it myself on stage. I did a lot of children's theater, and then I had the great fortune for 5 years to be the understudy for Stephen Carl, who was Robbie Rotten from the show Lazy Town, when I toured with How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the musical, as the Grinch's understudy. And Stefan was trained in mime work and clowning, and so he was able to take me aside and give me pointers a lot of times to help fine-tune my abilities. So when I was cast as Art, I called Stefan up and, hey buddy, I'm playing one of these silent clown-type characters. Do you have any tips? And so he gave me some great tips and advice, and you can probably watch my performance and watch some clips of Robbie Rotten and see some similarities. So I would say Stefan was definitely a great influence on me, and it's a shame that he was taken from us too early, from cancer, by cancer, and it's I hope I continue to carry his torch in some place.
Terrifier va començar sent una cosa petita i amb els anys ha anat creixent, el que és ara. M'agradaria que expliqués com recorda aquest procés de creixement de la franquícia.
This is a question for Damien. He says that Terrifier started as a very small thing, but all over the years this has been growing and growing up. So he would like to know how have you lived this growing process?
Well, on this one, obviously, this is the most money that we've ever had to play with, considerably. When we started with the first one, it was very, very small. There was probably 9 of us who made that movie. And me and Phil, my partner, we did all the special effects on part 1. And the fan base just kept growing, obviously, with every movie. And then part 2, we got to put it in the movie theaters. And these reports came out of people throwing up and passing out, and then it just really took off. So we got some great opportunities with part 3, and we were able to hire a lot more people, especially a big makeup effects team. And technically, I think it's the best looking one that we've ever shot. I was able to really focus on the camera department and working with my actors, so it became, it was easier in that regard. But more money, more problems. There were a lot of other issues I had to deal with, which made this a very intense experience, but I'm very proud of the result.
Damien, sí, en el proceso de escritura y estructura de guión tú ya estás pensando los efectos especiales, y luego por otra parte, ¿el universo de Art se puede expandir? ¿Libros, cómics, videojuegos? Gracias.
Oh sure, yeah. For the second question, yeah, he's already in both with comic books, Call of Duty, so he's in video games. Yeah, it's super exciting to see how popular this character's become and how enthusiastic everybody is about this character. It's really wonderful. I said, what's the first part of that question?
Was the screenwriting? If
The
when you
special effects.
write the script, you already have the effects in mind.
Sure, sometimes. And with each subsequent film, I know that I have to incorporate a really big kill scene now that has to hopefully rival or surpass the one that we did in the previous movie. So I'll have, lists of potential kill scenes that I just, keep on the side, and then I'll decide if I want to really go with that one, or you never know when inspiration's gonna hit, or you might come up with another idea. It could be at a moment when I'm not even trying to come up with an idea, but for instance, I was in a bookstore once just flipping through a book about Jack the Ripper, and I saw a picture of one of his victims, a real crime scene photo, and it was horrific, and it was a woman murdered, mutilated on a bed. And I said, what if Art the Clown was responsible for that? And let me sort of reverse engineer that picture. And then it becomes breaking it down into special effects moments and pieces. And then I'll write out a list of the 10 worst things I could do to a human being. And then I presented it to Phil, and then we chose 5 of them, and we spent months building these special effects. So.
Viendo las películas, la sensación es que la primera era una película más de terror macabro, y poco a poco vas introduciendo los giros de cine más fantástico sobrenatural. A mí me gustaría preguntar a qué se debe este cambio, digamos, de línea dentro del género, y si la saga continúa, pues por dónde vas a tirar. Y luego una segunda es si alguna vez veremos a David pues con su cara real, sin el maquillaje.
So after the first one, which was a very gritty, just straightforward, simplistic slasher grindhouse film, in all of the slasher franchises that I grew up loving, eventually the slasher becomes supernatural. So I wanted to dive in and embrace that sooner than later because it's inevitable. So once I decided I was going to kill Art the Clown and then bring him back, I really wanted to explore the supernatural element and the evil that's resurrecting him or responsible for him becoming seemingly immortal. And then once I decided to go all in there, I needed to bring in a worthy adversary who's sort of the counterpart to Art the Clown, with the Sienna character, who's sort of the benevolent counterpart to him, obviously. And then that became really fun to explore because it opens up all this whole, window of possibilities, and my imagination just goes wild. So this is sort of Terrifier 2 and 3 are sort of the supernatural detour in Art the Clown's journey. I tried to strike more of a balance with part 3 because part 2 was so fantastical, and I didn't want to get lost and just keep going too far in that direction. So with part 3, I tried to have the perfect blend of the elements of 1 and 2 and make part 3 a little grittier and darker like the original, because the fan base is pretty split. A lot of people love the original, a lot of people really love part 2, so I wanted to try and get as much out of those 2 as possible. No, especially you do catch little glimpses in the first one when he's putting on his makeup. But at this point, since he's been rebirthed through Victoria, I mean, that is what he looks like now. That's basically, that makeup is baked into his flesh.
Thanks, Mama.
Hi, everyone. I have a couple of questions for Damien and one for the cast. The first one was, if you have a line you would never cross on your movies, since I watched the third one yesterday and it was pretty sick. If you have a line, you're like, I'm not going ever there. And could you tell me something about the cameos in your movie? Tom Savini is a special effect master, and the second is for the cast. If you ever, what was the craziest part of the script you wrote and then you shoot? When the first time you read the script, what was the craziest part of the Terrifier 3? to read and to shoot. Thank you.
So I don't think that there's any subject in a film that's too taboo not to tackle, but there's a way to execute it, and so where it can be still palatable to an audience no matter how horrific it might be. And that was sort of what I was challenged with in this film. Not to give any spoilers, but there's a lot of rumors, or let's say, about children being killed by Art the Clown. So if I were to tackle that, I wanted to do it in a accessible way. I could have gone very far and made it very graphic and off-putting, where my fear is that I would lose the audience and alienate too many people, and I don't want to do that. So my goal is to try and maintain some balance between, you know, getting right up to the line and maybe just stepping right over it, pushing the boundaries a little bit, and on the other end maintaining as much mass appeal as I can, because I think if I went too far into that dark, disturbing direction, I think it's a disservice to the Art the Clown character, because I think he has so much mass appeal, and I think he can really, you know, if you're just a casual horror fan, I think you would love this character. So it's important that I strike that balance. So as far as cameos, Tom Savini is my hero, as my biggest influence as a makeup effects artist, which led to me becoming a filmmaker in general. So I'm always just paying him compliments, and if I do an article, I'm always referencing him if I do an interview. And then over the years, I've started meeting him at horror conventions, because David and I do them all the time, and we became friendly, and he just wanted to be a part of this. So it was when I heard that, I was like, of course. I went home and I wrote a part for him as quick as I can. So I love that he got such a big reaction last night in the screening. It was wonderful. But that was a really beautiful full circle moment for me as a filmmaker and as a makeup effects artist, because he really did inspire me from the age of about 7. That's when I fell in love with makeup effects, and I realized what a makeup artist did, and it was from a documentary of his. But that's what it's been like at all these horror conventions now. David and I meet all of our, you know, heroes who were in all these horror movies that we grew up loving, and now we're becoming friendly, and so many of them want to be in these films. So I try and put them in there if I can, but it also has to make sense, and I don't want it to just become a movie full of cameos, so it's tricky, but it's we're so grateful.
Definitely the finale, when I read it and filmed it, I guess I can't give spoilers, but there's a particular moment, actually no, not even just moment, the entire finale was absolutely insane, both to witness and to be a part of, and I think that's probably all the details I can give for the people who haven't seen it yet. It's gross.
Yeah, I feel like I've done 3 of these films by now, and I'm a bit desensitized, so I read it and it's just like, yeah, it's like wallpaper. But if I would agree with Lauren, it's the final scene, and also there's a lot of moments in that final scene that aren't actually in the final cut that I feel like would have been very disturbing if it made it. So yeah, that final scene.
I agree also with the finale. I love that part, especially where it leaves the characters at the end of the film. But also, I love the infamous bar scene in this. I think that was a very fun, creative kill, a funny kill in some ways. And I enjoy scenes where art gets to mess with people in public. And I had a lot of fun with that scene. Same with the mall scene as well. I love those type of scenes. They're a blast.
So this is not a question, this is the sad moment to kill this press conference.